Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to Outsiders, and tonight's show is our second of our shows, and it's going to be focusing on very much similar topics to what we talked of in week one, but of course completely new areas. So let's start tonight with some news in the RPG world. I'm going to cover off two bits of news for you. The first bit of news is a new product that's out that I believe is completely new to everybody, and it's called Flame. It's called Flame D6. And it's about, from what I can understand, it's a futuristic product, and it's about people who literally in the future can manipulate energy, matter and all sorts. And these particular people, for whatever reason, again, the premise of the game is that they commit some crime and they end up getting thrown into this world called Flame, and it's about them trying to find their way back from the brink, basically, I think, of probably destruction. It's a way of finding their way back. There are obviously others, hundreds of thousands of souls tormented like them. And that's what the premise of Flame is. So it's a futuristic product. I don't know a lot more other than the blurb, to be honest. I like the look of it. I love the idea of these sort of almost godlike figures who have been sentenced or sent into exile, having to find their way back from the brink. I really quite like the idea behind that. So if you do come across this product and do a review, please link it to this channel. I'll be keeping an eye out for this product. It's literally gone live here in the UK this week. And if I can get hold of one, then at some point I may well do a review on it myself. But whoever does one first, brilliant, link it to this channel and I'll be quite happy to give you a big shout out. So that's the first product of the week. The second product of the week is an interesting one. I came across this by looking in various gaming magazines, and I think, like probably a lot of you guys and girls out there, we have an interest in all things RPG, to be perfectly honest with you. So I love what computers can do. I love pen and paper. I do like live action as well, but it has to be, for me, live action has to be very well run for it to be of any real quality. But if it is, it's fantastic. And computer games are I'm very sceptical when it comes to RPG games in general, because I don't think they're nearly good enough, and often a lot of them are rehashes of previous games gone by, and it disappoints me a lot of the time, but there are a few notable exceptions. I hope to, in November of this year, when it comes live, I will look to do Skyrim for the new Oblivion Civ Elder Scrolls series. I'm looking forward to reviewing that and actually playing that game, and I will certainly be doing that for you guys and girls. But what I came across was interesting because it was about a new Neverwinter Nights product. Now obviously this is Forgotten Realms product. It's traditionally always a D&D based engine, and that was interesting because if you think about it, Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition has been out for quite a while. There's not been one single computer game, so bear that in mind, that actually ports in the 4th edition engine at all. In some ways that would be, in my view, very disappointing, because you would want to see that, and obviously the system of 4th edition really was built to go online, so it should be an ideal match and a very, very good fit for a computer game. So Neverwinter Nights, it is modelled off the 4th edition engine. It's going to be going live later on this year, around about the same time as Skyrim's hits over here, Skyrim's hits over here. So you're talking around about November time. And again, if you get hold of that product, I'll be very interested on a review on it, and I'd love to know more. I'm not a big 4th edition fan, as anybody knows. It's not my cup of tea, but I think the engine for 4th edition will fit a computer game very well and should do particularly nicely. So I'm mentioning it to you because it's obviously one of the most important bits of news of the whole week. So anyway, let's take a quick break out for a second, have a quick swig of tea, and welcome back. Now, I've got in front of me today, moving now swiftly on to some DM's tips this week, I've brought out my prop box. Now, my prop box is twofold. The first thing is obviously, it's a box. This one that I've got here originally housed somebody's paintball gun. And it's a perfect fit. It's lined interiorly with foam. It's full of different props that I can use in various games. They have to be the right game at the right time for the right audience. And where I'm role playing at the moment, obviously I've got my main group in London, but we've got a newer group that's opened up here. I think we mentioned this in programme 1, up here near where I live in Northampton in the UK, and I was given the challenge to do a one-off or one-shot. And obviously when it's a new crowd and a new audience, one of the things I always think is really important is that you stamp down your mark, if you like, about who you are as a DM and what you're all about, because I think it's important. So you've got a great opportunity when it's a new group to really almost showcase what you're all about. So one-offs, one-shots can be very, very useful for that. Anyway, I wrote a story many years ago around it, an idea for a one-off, and it actually dates back to '93, and this used a lot of props, very prop heavy. The idea being sort of to incorporate role play, pen and paper role play, and tabletop role playing in one shot, so that you actually get, in a sort of 4 or 5 hour block of time, a really exciting and fun and horrific sort of storyline all thrown together, so you really capture people's imaginations. And that's what I did with the prop box. I was given this opportunity to bring out the prop box again after a number of years. I often carry the box, I'll be honest as well, this is sort of a mini DM's tip here, but I often carry the box into games I'm about to run anyway. It's twofold. The first one is very much like a shield that you use a screen. A box that you bring in creates an air of mystery immediately. You can tell your players are interested. You can see the heads come up. It's like they swivel on a stalk. They're looking at you to see what you've got in your box, what's in that box. And even if it's nothing more than like this, we use it as a shield, you can lean your bits of paper up against it. I find it really invaluable at times. It's a fantastic thing. Just having the box can be more frightening than anything else. Can be more frightening than a roll of a dice, funny enough. Because you can always be fumbling around in the box, never quite sure what's going to come out next. So I always find it very useful. Anyway, my prop box is full of stuff I'm about to pull off. Now you've seen before, I've used the old grey shirt and slipper paper for a vicar. Now, in case you haven't seen that before, which is a possibility, effectively what you would do, and I'm going to go through a number of the props. Obviously you'd wear your shirt, and the key is you'd have your top button done up and you'd wear it as a normal shirt, and then at the very last minute, many of you would have seen this, you slip a piece of white paper in between the collar. And what you then have is a reverend. Obviously that would self-hold and away you go. Now, I use it for all different types of things. It's not just for quick costume change and all that stuff. The props should have value and meaning. That's the most important thing, but they're relative. So when you're doing what I was doing, a Cthulhu game, I was able to go into a reverend, I was able to come up with a quick guise for a particular character that I wanted to do, and I decided what I wanted to do was to put together a particular character that I had in mind. So this is also another tip as well. So although I've got a box of props here, I'm going to go through a number of the props and what I was using them for. Even wearing a hat and having shades attached to the hat starts to get me into actually the character that I want to portray. Now I've said to you before, for anybody that's followed my videos, the first thing I always look for when I'm actually trying to come up with a voice for a character, I need a name. And that's the first trigger for me, that's the thing that really gets me into them. So this particular guy was called Bob Dingle. And the idea behind him is that he's Australian, that was the other thing. And I've never been able to master the Australian accent. And I apologise to any Australians watching this, because this is as good as I can do. So I'm going to try and do a small snippet of Bob Dingle's voice. You can see I've got the hat, got the shades on, I look the part, and I'm just slipping into the voice as I begin to speak to you now. Hello, my name's Bob Dingle, I'm an Australian eccentric millionaire. That's right, I'm the koala hunter. I'm the original koala hunter. Now you might think that's inhumane, but I really do believe that using grenades and live ammo is a very, very quick way of getting rid of those damn pests. They can run, those koalas, trust me, they're very dangerous. Anyway, I digress. I'd like to welcome you all aboard here, and thanks Sean for the intro. So anyway, as you can see, just having a few props, what it does for you is immediately it got me into a character. Now when I was doing my particular one-shot, I was able to slip between the Reverend. I'd like to have spent more time with the Reverend, but there is always a judgment call when you DM. And Bob Dingle. I had a lot of fun doing Bob because it was very much an Australian theme setting just off the coast of Western Australia. There was a lot of, it was a marine setting, there was going to be some unique maritime exploration stuff going on. It was a lot of fun to have this character around. And I wanted to capture some things. So one of the things I also use sometimes is a sheet. In this particular case we used a black sheet. What we did with the sheet is effectively I put it over a small table, and underneath that sheet, I won't particularly do that for you, but it's a nice easy sheet, and one of those bed sheets that you can get, it's got elastic on the edges. You can run it over a table, and then what I had it do, I said to my players that was their joey. Now the joey in this case was a small submersible sub. Players can sit underneath the table, they can have a little flashlight going. Yes, it's a little girl's torch, but the reality is when you're underneath the cover, you're inside this thing and the only light you've got is this suddenly takes on a whole new meaning of menace, and it's quite a lot of fun. So suddenly the little torch becomes far more important, and also I had people acting out in diving suits and all sorts of stuff. And it brought the whole gaming experience to life in that 4-hour slot. And I really do believe, and I'm confident with the feedback we've already received, it elevated the game to a completely new level for these players. A number of these players had never seen some of the things that I was doing. Now, also in the Joey, we used some walkie-talkies. Now, I make no excuse for these. These are Iron Man torches, and they may look a bit silly. But the point of it is these are poor quality walkie-talkies that are bad over anything over about 20 feet. So absolutely ideal for role-playing because people are shouting, they're holding them the wrong way round, they're sort of, hello Captain, hello, can you hear me? It was absolutely excellent. Thoroughly recommend them because any sort of walkie-talkie of poor quality, kiddies walkie-talkies, will do the job very well. Another thing that you look to do whenever you're running a game, hence we talked about the lighting, but any sort of thing you can find that will project light of any type, fluorescent glow sticks, this sort of lighting, anything whatsoever can massively change the mood of your room. Now I'm going to make a quick experiment. I'm just going to put a signal to my second who's waiting in the wings. Could you turn out the lights for me? We're just going to watch the difference that will happen when the light goes off for a split second. So probably the video will go very dark. And that's fine. Thank you. You can see immediately we have a different mood in the room. You can put the lights back on. You can see we have a different mood in the room as soon as the lights go out and these things are planted around the room or fluorescent sticks are dropped down. Totally different atmosphere. And then of course what you can do is back that up with an iPhone, which we're currently using, that I'm being filmed on using the iPhone. I can do voice recordings, I can do music samples, a whole lot of things. And of course I've also got the iPad for maps and various other things that I want to show up or imagery. So all these sort of things can capture in a session a considerable amount of atmosphere. The props can do so much to you. So when we talk about props, and we've touched on them before, it's not just about one or two gimmicks, having a good map or things like that. Don't be afraid to really put yourself out there. Now, one of the things that my mum used to say to me a lot, and it was only later in life that I realised what she was getting at really, was she often said, Sean, there's a fine line between genius and madness. And I think she's absolutely right. As a DM, you have to put yourself sometimes in uncomfortable situations, really on the edge. I said to one of the players before going in, I said, tonight is either going to be one of them situations where people are either going to say, that guy is a genius, or they're going to turn around and say, that guy is a Fruit Loop. I was hoping it wasn't going to be the latter, to be honest, but you can never tell. You really can't. But thankfully, the players thankfully, loved what went on in the session, had a blast, and it really elevated that Cthulhu game. And to be honest, it was a very linear storyline. It was very, very linear. I literally gave the players a list of thick problems that had to be resolved on the third test run, and I obviously added a very nasty twist in on the story, but it was very linear. But the point is, I don't think anybody really noticed that because of the fact that they were having so much fun with the various props and various things that were going on. And when you've only got a one-shot, you've got to keep it very much on track because you want to have a conclusion at the end of the day for a story like that. So I think the prop box used well is invaluable. And you can fill it with whatever you like, but it isn't just a prop box. I mean, you can use it for that, but it can also be quite a mysterious item. A box, because of what's in it, is always fun. And you'll find as well your players will absolutely love you for it. So today, that's been my big DM's tip, really. The prop box, and I wanted to cover it off properly because I don't think we've done enough justice on props in the past, and I felt it relevant that we needed to touch on it again. So thank you for indulging me on that. So let's move now at this point on to a couple of other pieces actually that I think are quite relevant. These are just general questions that you guys have asked me, and I feel are quite good that we can bring up at this stage, and if anything pops back into my head, which it inevitably will do, we may cover off one more tip. But I'm going to now touch on a few of your questions. And one of the questions somebody asked me was, I seem to always accept, friends' requests. Is that right? And the answer, of course, is yes, I do. And the reason I do is very simple. I look at it as a community of people. And my plan has always been the same since I started on YouTube. Grow the community, not just yourself. Grow the community, encourage other people to do videos. And that has always been my goal and my plan. We have some remarkable DMs out there producing fantastic quality videos. Forget the fact that it's being done, literally in your home. Forget that. It's the quality of the material that's so strong. The fact that these people are prepared to take the time out to do it. And that's why I'm so much, I'm very much in the mindset that it's very important to engage anybody that has a request to be your friend. my hope is, like many of you do, do get in touch with us. I have no issues with that. My email is Sean, SEAN.Connors, CONNORS 68 @hotmail.com. You're more than welcome to email me with your questions, comments, anything at all. I'll always be happy to try and reply. There are times when you will not receive a reply back from me. That is purely because the sheer amount that we get, persevere, hang in there, keep sending them. The more you persist, you will get your reply. So that's the first thing about friend requests. Another thing that people often ask, in my games particularly, and from requests that I seem to receive a lot of, is preparation. Preparation time. How much preparation time do I do? Well, this is a very difficult question to answer, because I think every single DM is different, and that's been brought home more so in the last few weeks, when some DMs clearly need more preparation time to read up on what they're running or whatever they do. Now I'm of the school where I believe 100% in my own personal abilities, that I strongly believe that you could knock me on the head, comatose me, and bring me into a session 1 minute before we play, and then wake me up, and could I run something, even without anything with me, no props, no material, no nothing? And the answer is yes. That's because my preferred style of play is a good portion of ad-lib, the ability to read the audience, and also as well keeping it fairly logical really helps when it comes to ad-libbing, because it has a much better flow to it in my view, and it feels fair to the players. So for me, that's one of my strengths. That isn't everybody's. So answering a question on preparation is impossible, because some people prefer to prep. I like a combination of the two types of school. So for me, I do like to have a lot of mental preparation. Excuse me, I'm probably going to sneeze. Apologies. But I like to have some mental preparations. I'm going to take this week here. And I do like to also have what I call my flowcharts. So you've seen before I do my storyboarding. Those are my way of capturing, in my view, the most logical methods or ways the players will challenge the story ahead of them. They're not always the way the players will do it. It's just what I believe to be the most likeliest route. But of course, any good DM will be able to alter, bend and change his story. I think where I differ from some of those DMs is that I'm not prepared to move what I've set up in my own mind. I don't move. If the players don't deal with it, or don't go that particular route, I just leave it where it is, and then I roll with the punches and go from there. So that's the first thing. So preparation time, it's really what works for you. If you need to put, I think when you're starting out in this hobby of ours, I think probably you need to put in a lot more preparation time than when you've been around a few years. I think when I look back, I probably put in more preparation time at the beginning than I certainly do now. I don't have to put in as much. I feel I've got a product that's strong enough, and I believe my own personality is good enough to carry a lot of the sessions over, I hope, and the players are entertained, which is the key, that my audience come away feeling good, and that will ultimately make me feel good. So that's really as much as I can really tell about preparation. It's what really works for you. I'm sorry it's still very vague, but it really isn't a straightforward answer to that question, but it's important to cover it off, I think. So, also we get asked as well a lot of questions based on, are we going to see any brand new products from the Outsiders channel? Things that aren't on the shelf yet. And the answer, of course, is yes, you will be seeing products that aren't on the shelf yet. I'll also be giving you various clues about what's going to go on. Now, I think what this now leads me to mention is the fact that I think it's pretty fair to say that one thing that surprised me of recent, sort of past news, but fairly recent, is obviously in America you've just had your big Gen Con out there, and Wizards of the Coast did not announce 5th edition. I'm very surprised, to be perfectly honest with you, because I had a lot of inside information that it was likely to be announced, and I'm actually at the point now where I'm wondering if they're going to sell off the franchise in terms of that part of their obviously they own the number of products, whether they'll sell that part off. It's a possibility now. They'll have to wait another year before they launch. Pathfinder has a huge jump on them. It's continuing launching books. It's pretty clear from the research that I have done online and through my contacts in America that a number of shops in America, they're selling far more Pathfinder product now than Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. That's a big turning point. I never thought I'd see the day of that, but there you go. So these are pretty unique times, and it's a pretty unusual marketplace right now. So we'll have to watch this space and see what develops from here. There's not much more I can really tell you on that at this stage, but I won't be at all surprised to hear within the next within the next few months that you hear exactly what I've just said, really, regarding Wizards of the Coast and that particular arm, the D&D arm of their franchise. And what anybody will do with that next, really don't know. That's going to be the interesting part. So there we are. So really, all that leaves me to do tonight, really, to be honest with you, is begin to wrap it up, to be honest, tonight. I hope it's been a quality programme. I have to apologise as well in the first edition of my first video. I made a number of mistakes on people's names. I got things wrong. But I did tell you when I first started out on YouTube, many months back, that was my weakness. But it really came out a lot in that first video. So I do apologise. What I'm going to try and do, obviously, going forward is... I have got one more thing to do tonight. Indeed, forgot all about it. Oh, isn't that good? I'm glad I remembered. You see, I don't use a script. I tend to ad-lib a lot of my stuff. And I want it to be that way because I need to keep things as fresh as possible. I've got this sitting here, of course, and I want to touch on that as a couple of pieces. I nearly forgot all about it, so I'm glad that there's enough time to do it. What Magic Maxi, who was the first person to contact me last week, was doing my random box, as you know, review, and we'll finish on a random review. Gave me a number last week, and I've forgotten the number, but I do remember the product that he chose, which is this one, S1 to S4. This is the Realms of Horror. Now, this particular product covers off 4 modules. Now, we're not going to review all 4 of them, because one of them I've already reviewed, but I'll quickly tell you what they are. You've got S1 is the classic Tomb of Horrors, S2 is White Plume Mountain, S3 is Expedition to the Barrow Peaks, and S4, my particular personal favourite actually, is the Lost Caverns of Trosha Canth. Now that's the one that I'm going to review very quickly. Now what S1 to S4 is all 4 modules, all rolled into one, with a very nice booklet. I'll have to hold this up for you, with some pictures in it. That's mostly the S1. That's White Plume Mountain stuff's quite futuristic, quite a lot of fun. And then you've got a few little snippets and bits and pieces at the back for a couple of the other modules. But it's very well done, and these are actually very rare now. These probably on eBay you pick them up for about 30 quid, but that's quite a lot of money actually for these now. What's that, about $55, $60? So they're pretty good. But Trosha Canth was a particular favourite of mine. It's a high level module in the original D&D. We're talking AD&D here, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And it was about a story where the characters have been given effectively or found out about a particular treasure map that leads them into an area called Trosha Canth. Now, when this story was written, it's written for high level play, roughly 10 to 14th level, very much like Tomb of Horrors. And I remember the very first encounter almost as if it was yesterday. It was one of those encounters that really stuck with me, like a lot of these products do. They give you something. That's what I love about the old stuff. You know, it gives you things that, and this is why I always say to any new DMs, you know, obviously you're going to buy what's out there now, and that's fine. But that stuff you buy, it is an investment because those products, because like I'm a hoarder, you know, as a DM I'll be the first to tell you, I hoard my stuff. I love my products. But they become like archival, really. You end up, I think, right, I need an idea, right, I'll go back into the past and start digging out a certain module. There was this in that module that I really like. I wonder if I can tweak that for a modern audience. And, you know, that's what it really becomes. It becomes an archive of wonderful stuff. You're a bit like an archaeologist, really. And I've used the word before, you know, you're a director, you're a Spielberg. That's the reason why, because you've got to use what's already gone before, and you've got to put your own take and your own twist on it and develop it and create your own stuff. Star Wars wouldn't have come around if it wasn't for certain films that have been previously made. You know, it's still a great story, it's a wonderful idea, and it's still very original. But it's got its roots in other products, and that's where I'm going here with Trosha Canth, is the fact that it has some great twists that I really like. So in essence, it's a very straightforward dungeon crawl. It's a very elaborate collection, hodgepodge actually, collection of odd monsters in a very almost cavernous sort of thing. I don't know if I'm going to find at a quick glance any sort of maps to it, because to be honest with you, I haven't really gone through this at all in any great shakes. So I don't know if I'm going to just, you know, pick up, find any maps to it at all. I mean, I'm probably missing a booklet that's probably meant to go in there. It's probably somewhere in one of my boxes. But effectively what it is, you've got 2 main maps, and I remember them well, and they are literally cavernous. And it's full of odd creatures. You've got odd creatures that were plucked out of some of the most obscure monster manuals of the day, and just literally thrown together in this module. So it didn't really matter which way the players went, but at the essence of the story, there is a set of clues that lead the players ever closer to the second caverns, and the centrepiece, which effectively there's this undead vampire creature. It's really good ending. It's very strong, but it's the beginning that has the greatest twist. And this is the twist. This is what's so brilliant about Troshikant. When the players find the steps that lead up into this, well, it's a mountainous area, wilderness. You climb these. You have to go up into these mountains, a huge climb. You eventually find these steps. You climb the steps. You get into the where the steps run into the side of this mountain. You start following up this path inside, up a few more steps until eventually you level out into these caverns. But before you get to level out into the caverns, you're attacked by a clay golem when you reach the steps. Now, this is back in the original AD&D. Now, you would be, 10th to 14th level characters in a group, and the clay golem's like, it's a bit tougher than you. It's like equivalent, 16th, 17th level creature on its own. Not impossible for the players to take on by any stretch of the imagination. But what's really clever about it is, and it's really ingenious, is that any damage dealt by the clay golem, you would have to have a 17th level cleric or better to heal you. And I remember that very well. And it's a real peach, because it almost means all this journey to get to this damn location, and it could be for nothing, because the very first encounter could mean that most of the group can't possibly go in. Or if they do go in, there's a huge risk that they'll never come out. And that is classic Gygax, in my view. Brilliant, tough, brilliantly fair. Leaving you the moral question of, do you go in, risk it all, or do you pull back and probably never get a chance to come back again? I love that about his work, and that's why I'm mentioning Troshikant tonight. So for Magic Maxi, thank you very much for that. Random box is open to anybody. Please send in your request. I'll always take the first one, so each week I'll ask again, whoever sends in the first reply, that's the one I'm going to use. So it's box 1 or box 2, numbers 1 to 100. Your choices. I have a backlog in case no one submits an answer, but I think from last week we got a lot of personal emails through about it, but Magic Max was the first to reply, so I thank him for that. And all that leaves me to say here tonight, in my inevitable style, because of course I'm now going to leave you with the capable hands of Bob Dingle, is to say to you, au revoir, or as we like to say in Oz, goodbye, and I'd like to leave you with these few moments from Sean Connors, on behalf of me, Bob Dingle. A good night, you all. Happy gaming. And may your prop box turn out to be as good as my fishing box or my tackle. Never mind, eh? There's always next year, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I digress. I'm Bob Dingle, eccentric billionaire Australian. I hope you've enjoyed Sean's channel as much as I've enjoyed appearing on it. Until the next time, take care of yourselves and happy gaming. Good night.